welcome, and thank you for wanting to be so interested in how to activate your own stem cells. This is one of the most exciting new cutting edge technology inventions that I've come across in my career as a nurse of 20 years. So what I wanted to do is share this exciting information with you and then let you decide if it's something for you. My name is Jacqueline Doan. I'm a registered nurse and I have a health coaching business, and I love to teach people about health and longevity. Let me just introduce myself a little bit deeply here into genetic mutations and growing up. I was actually born with some fairly significant genetic mutations. Many of you know about the MTHFR mutation and how this mutation can alter your body's ability to methylate. And methylation is critically important for almost every function in the body. If you have a methylation problem, sometimes you have a detoxification problem, and over time, your body can become burdened to the point where it does not fight infectious agents well. The immune system becomes compromised, and sometimes you become allergic to many foods and other allergenic triggers. In addition to these genetic mutations, or because of them, I should say, I was very sensitive to the black mold exposure I had growing up. And our basement had black mold. We had a very shallow water table, and at 12 or 14 feet you could actually hit a well from the Columbia River that was just a mile from my home growing up. So because there was a crack in the foundation of my home, the mold easily grew in the constantly moist foundation of our home. So I struggled with fatigue and chronic infection, sinus and bronchitis infections mostly, and used quite a few antibiotics growing up. Then in 1991, at the age of 31, I was in a fairly traumatic bike accident. I was riding my bike, and the oncoming car and the car passing me and myself were all going to cross at the same time. And so the car next to me moved over and bumped me into an open storm drain. And that open storm drain took my entire tire, and I did not have a helmet. And I had a traumatic brain injury when my head hit first. I actually broke my neck and ruptured my spleen and had multiple broken ribs, in addition to several other incidental injuries with that accident. And that was remarkably difficult for me to recover from. My husband and I were actually in a rollover car accident. Just enormously stressful to try and come back from that accident. And I did have to learn to walk and talk again. That's how hard I hit my head, and I hit the language center of my brain. So after 17 years of recovering from that accident, I had felt good for about 3 years, and then I was in yet another accident. Someone rear-ended us, and we suffered a whiplash accident. And it may not have been such a bad accident if it hadn't exactly mimicked the angle and the trauma of the 1991 cycling accident. A rash appeared on my face, and I had that rash cultured, and it was MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, which is a superbug and a deadly hospital-acquired infection. In addition to that infection, I also tested positive for yet another hospital-acquired infection known as Pseudomonas. So having two superbugs and having the trauma of this accident and being 54 years old at the time, I knew that I was in trouble and that I really needed help. And my mind immediately went to stem cells, because I knew the power of stem cells and the regenerative capacity that stem cells have. And laying there in bed, being so sick and so broken, I constantly asked myself, how do I get from this accident situation back to this? I really wanted to be healthy again and to enjoy life. And I knew, really, at my age, the only thing that I felt I had viable hope in was stem cells. And so when someone is critically injured, you need stem cells that can activate and regenerate after themselves and then elevate your health status. So because of the enormous pain I was in and the inability that my liver has to process prescription medications, I had a great deal of pain, and pain control was the number one problem. In addition to that, I had a great deal of inflammation, and I needed to somehow manage the inflammation without taking ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is well known to prevent bones from healing. One article of research that I will cite in the notes indicated that if you have taken ibuprofen 1 year before or 1 year after a broken bone, it can keep the bone from healing. And so ibuprofen was not an option for me to take. And with acute and chronic tissue damage, these tissues need repair, and they need rapid, sustained healing in order to recover, just simply because of the nature of scar tissue, and scar tissue tending to keep building. Now, scar tissue is where infectious agents like to hide, because scar tissue is dense and thick. It doesn't have its own circulatory system, and it's very difficult for your immune system to get in and clean out scar tissue. And again, scar tissue being such a problem, with the collapsed lung I had fluid on the lung. Actually, blood had pooled and collapsed my right lung. And I needed to prevent the scar tissue formation inside the lung because it would decrease my lung capacity and my ability to uptake oxygen when I breathed. And in addition to that, I did have extreme post-traumatic stress syndrome, and that shock to my nervous system as a result of the high velocity impact of being hit by the truck. And so the only thing I knew of that would help address all of these issues, and just naturally addresses all of these issues again, are stem cells. They were just simply required for regeneration. And so moving forward, I thought again about that I was older, that I had life-threatening injuries and infections. I knew from research that my copper peptide level was down to 80 nanograms per milliliter instead of 200, like when I was 30 years old. And copper peptide is important to support new, young stem cell regeneration. I could come to, but stem cells come with risks. And going through the risks, stem cells, because normally today, in order to get stem cells, they will extract your own stem cells from bone or blood and spin them down and then re-inject them. And this is an expensive and invasive process that puts you at risk for hospital-acquired infections, much like the one that I had. And I personally did not want to take that risk. And I also knew of the low probability of the success of my own stem cells being extracted and re-injected. For instance, in a study of 28 people with the mean age of 61 years old and from ages 45 to 75, when they did extract these individuals' stem cells, they put them in petri dishes to grow them, and only 2 of the individuals even had viable stem cells that grew. So we can see that even though they can extract stem cells, we do not know if they're healthy or even viable. And when you go to get stem cells other than your own, and they are obtained from cord blood, the most reliable and consistent source of umbilical cord stem cells can be from abortion clinics. And if you do embryonic stem cell extraction and injection, what they do is they fertilize an egg and put it in a petri dish, and when that egg has replicated to about 150 or 60 cells, they extract the stem cells from that egg and the entity dies. So these issues were of concern to me, not only because I don't know what that egg and sperm created or what the DNA of that will eventually turn out to be, nor did I know what the umbilical cord stem cells carried with it, as far as the baby and the baby having health issues itself growing up, perhaps congenital heart failure or similar issues that we can't know of. It became less and less acceptable to me to look at third-party sourcing for my stem cells. Now, another consideration with having outside stem cells injected is if you already have an inflammatory process, and many of us do, and it's why we go to get a very expensive stem cell injection. In the European Union, a stem cell injection is about $33,000 US, and that's just for one stem cell injection. And when you go for these injections, if you already have inflammation in the area, let's say a knee or a shoulder, when they do inject the stem cells, when these foreign stem cells arrive, if they do arrive at the site of inflammation, half of them die. And that's assuming that we have viable stem cells that have been injected in the first place. The other caveat is when they have tested stem cells that have in fact been injected into knees, in the first half an hour, let's say they injected 2 million stem cells. Within a half an hour, the stem cell count is down to 200,000. And within another half an hour, it drops by about that same increment again. So we can see that inflammation destroys stem cells. So once you get the injection for the body part that's inflamed and irritated, it may not be viable. I was looking for stem cells that were affordable, reliable, easily accessible, and something I could do at home. Some stem cell therapy that didn't require medical administration or supervision to cut out the risk of infection and the need for medical administration and the cost associated therewith. And I needed to know how I could safely activate my own stem cells. And I did want to avoid the risks from stem cells from other sources, or stem cells that may divide improperly. And I did want to avoid the risks from stem cells from other sources, or stem cells that may divide improperly. Incidentally, in the early stem cell research, and it still happens today, when stem cells were injected into rats, and I'm assuming, and I will research this and put it in the footnotes, that because copper peptide was not appropriately elevated, some of these stem cells went to the brains of rats and produced muscle tissue and hair tissue and lung and kidney tissue, and the rats died. Outside third-party stem cells were injected into a kidney, and the stem cells did not divide properly. And copper peptide is known as a moderator and a director to help prevent the inappropriate division of stem cells. When copper peptide isn't present, there have been cases recently of, for instance, a kidney failing because the stem cells divided improperly when they were injected into a kidney. So we need to be mindful of that, even though we don't hear much about that. So again, we need an easy to use product with little or no instruction associated with it. And I looked and looked to try to find a product that met that requirement. And the research of how to signal the body to produce its own healthy young stem cells. So again, we need an easy to use product with little or no instruction associated with it. And I looked and looked to try to find a product that met that requirement. And the research of how to signal the body to produce its own healthy young stem cells. And I ran across the inventor and innovator, Mr. David Schmidt. And let me introduce you to him. David Schmidt has been in the field of regenerative medicine for over 20 years, and he is brilliant. He has a passion for youth restoration and rejuvenation. He has over 70 patents in many countries throughout the world and 80 clinical studies on all of his products. What he focuses on is a therapy called photobiomodulation, and it's the science that he uses in his reflective patches. So he once had to use a machine to get the right optical frequency and the right magnetic field generated to get the specific wavelength of light to increase copper peptide, which in turn asks the skin to produce young, youthful stem cells. And with this increased production, the copper peptide also directs mobilization. So going a little bit further into David Schmidt's experimentations with light, there is a small creature that is often used in medical studies called a planarium. And what's unique about the planarium is it has lots and lots of stem cells. I'm not sure what the ratio is to humans versus planarium, but planarium are full of stem cells. And when you cut off the head or tail of a planarium, it will grow its own head or tail back in 16 days or 17 days. I think it's 17 days. So they use it often in research for testing. And what David Schmidt did was he created this machine, which is a double helix, long light wave electromagnetic field generator. And he used that generator on the planarium. So he would cut off the head of a planarium, make a tune-up to this machine that he has, and they reduced the regrowth time of a planarium head from 17 days to 8 days. Then they made another adjustment on their double helix machine and reduced the planarium regrowth time to only 5 days. Then another adjustment and 3 days. Then 2 days. A couple more adjustments. 1 day. The planarium was regenerating its own head in 1 day. And they made one more adjustment, got that patented, and the planarium regrew its own head in 16 and a half hours. This light wave signal that regrew the planarium head is also available to us now without a machine in the Lifewave Reflective X39 stem cell patch. Because our bodies already have its own electromagnetic field, and they emit far infrared light and heat, when the X39 stem cell patch is placed on the body, it reflects back to your body a different wavelength of light, and that wavelength of light, specifically configured by the crystalline structure in the patch, or the reflective surface in the patch, signals a specific action in the DNA, which elevates your own natural copper peptide production. And when your copper peptide goes up, your young, youthful, natural stem cell production elevates. Copper peptide has been known to increase youthful function in the body. For instance, Lauren Picard, who you can Google and look up his lifetime of research on copper peptide, back in 1964 took old liver cells from an 80-year-old person and dropped them into the plasma, the blood plasma, of a 20 or 30-year-old. And after a short period of time, about 45 minutes, those old liver cells began to function exactly like young liver cells. And he knew there was something in the plasma that caused that youth regenerative signal to be sent to those old liver cells. So he went to work to find out what that was, and it's copper peptide. Excuse me. Understanding the power of copper peptide and its ability to direct the production of stem cells, to mobilize those stem cells, and to activate those stem cells when they arrive at the proper tissue that is calling to them for repair, regeneration, and support. We find that if copper peptide is not present, then the possibility for those stem cells to divide in a way that's not appropriate goes up. So we want to make sure that our copper peptide is increased in the way that it should be. So sending this light signal to the skin is much like when the sun shines on our skin and it trips the DNA to produce a hormone called melanin, and it's how we tan. So that is photobiomodulation when you're out in the sun. And these reflective patches take the light from your body and also reflect a light signal that trips your DNA to increase copper peptide. That directly increases young stem cell health and growth, not the regeneration of old stem cells. I'm sorry, not the production of old stem cells, but the regeneration of old stem cells, resetting them back to reproduce as young stem cells. So that in itself is completely remarkable. And these young pluripotent stem cells are the type of stem cells that can go anywhere in the body and turn into any type of tissue. Multipotent stem cells are specific to the organ they come from. For instance, a liver stem cell can only become a liver stem cell. And as it reproduces, it will make liver cells. And a kidney stem cell, a multipotent kidney stem cell, will only reproduce a kidney cell. But the copper peptide in the skin being signaled by the X39 stem cell patch will produce pluripotent stem cells that can go anywhere in the body and regrow tissue and support and sustain those tissues back to youthful function. Because the research has indicated the result of this, these are just some of the statistically significant results after just 7 days of using the X39 stem cell patch. The restoration of fitness and adaptability to change. And so as we age, it gets harder to move quickly, and it gets harder for our body to adapt to standing up quickly or getting out of bed and going to an upright position. It lowers blood pressure. It improves muscle relaxation. And this is really phenomenal when it talks about the metabolic outcomes for amino acids. What that means is when you have proteins in your body, they are supposed to perform certain functions. Some proteins repair, some proteins provide excellent chemistry for your body and brain in order to repair and function. There's a healthy, happy brain neurochemistry cascade reward system that 5-hydroxytryptophan and other amino acids are responsible for, just to keep you happy and able to adapt to stress. When Dr. Melinda Connor researched 1,000 studies on PubMed, she didn't find any studies related to amino acids that were statistically significant, even for one amino acid. But after 7 days, the X39 stem cell patch improved 16 metabolic outcomes for amino acids for healthy metabolism. And she was so excited about that when she presented. I wish you could have seen her enthusiasm. The significant anti-inflammatory effects probably helped with the relaxation of the muscles. And the CBS transsulfuration pathway, that is a DNA SNP, or just one segment of DNA in all of us. And this cystathionine beta synthase pathway, when damaged, inhibits our ability to handle sulfur. And people who have a sulfur metabolism problem are tired. They easily get brain fog. Their joints and muscles ache, and they become sulfite toxic. And that triggers asthma and anxiety in some people. So for that pathway to work correctly was remarkable and statistically significant that that pathway was altered. The Lifewave patches have within their patching regimen a glutathione patch, and wearing the glutathione patch, which is our major antioxidant and detoxifier, for only 24 hours after wearing this patch, let me say that again. The glutathione patch, when worn for 12 hours, and glutathione levels tested at 24 hours, it was found that increased your own glutathione production 300%. That is a phenomenal increase in glutathione production, and since aging and death are directly correlated to glutathione levels, if your glutathione levels are high, your health is high and your age is prolonged, and as your glutathione levels drop, your health drops in direct correlation, and aging and death are the eventual outcome of degrading and finally no glutathione levels. So we do need to keep those high in addition to activating our stem cells in a healthy fashion. It's good to note here that the synergistic effect of the different Lifewave patches used together, for instance, the glutathione patch we just spoke about, combined with the X39 stem cell patch and the AON patch for its anti-inflammatory support and signaling to the body, can really go a long way to support the body's detoxification and regenerative needs. When the body is inflamed, it doesn't get the nutrients in or the toxins out of the cell like it could when the body is not inflamed. And when Dr. Melinda Connor reported these results, she said that if we had tested for 10 days instead of just 7 days, we would probably have found that short-term and long-term memory, focus, and concentration would have been improved as well. So here we are with the ability to decrease inflammation, also the ability to signal the body's own systems to produce more energy at the mitochondrial level. Using the X39 stem cell patch will put an increased energetic demand on the body, and it's important to keep your health and nutrition up. You must drink 2 quarts of water a day, to help your kidneys clear the toxins, and you need extra sleep because your body is repairing at a significant rate. Most people within the first day of wearing the X39 stem cell patch note that they sleep better that night than they have in years. And many people notice a significant reduction in pain within minutes of applying the X39 stem cell patch and or the Icewave patch or AON patches. And that particular restoration and rejuvenative signal to the body really does support the pain relief. Now, there is one caveat. If you happen to put the X39 stem cell patch on and you find you feel worse, it is because the stem cells that you are producing, because of the elevation in copper peptide from the X39 stem cell patch, will go and break down damaged, dead, or dying tissue first. It will clean the body up. And when this cleaning process takes place, there's a mild, natural, appropriate inflammatory process that goes with that. So if you're feeling worse, before you feel better, only wear the patch as long as you want to each day. The patch is good for 12 to 24 hours, and you can use the same patch over and over until you have hit the 12 to 14 hour mark. So take it easy with the patches. If you feel more tired, that's entirely normal. Make sure you drink your water, keep your nutrition up, and take lots of naps while your body is going through this amazing healing process. So clinical research has also proven that when the body goes to repair, the wound healing can be 3 times faster than normal. And we all know that as we get older, when we get an injury in our feet or around the foot area, it can take quite a while to heal because the circulation and gravity can be compromised down at our feet. So here's a picture of a woman who had foot surgery, and from the 14th of September to the 18th of October, only 34 days after surgery, take a look at the very first image and then take a look at the last image. And not only the quality of her skin has improved, but the inflammation is down so remarkably, and the scar is almost gone, that I would challenge anyone to find someone that can heal that fast without the help of the X39 stem cell patch. The other image that you see is a doctor, and when she was snorkeling, I believe she was in the Caribbean, she was stung by a jellyfish. And you can see the welts and burns and toxic results of that jellyfish sting in the first image. And again, from September 25th to October 16th, which is just right at 3 weeks, the inflammation has gone down, the scarring is clearing up, and the tissue is completely flat, except for the coloration. She is nearly back to normal. Here's a slide that makes me chuckle. This young man had a job interview, and he decided to go snowboarding 5 days before his job interview. And this snowboarding accident he had did not make his mom happy. So she had him wear the X39 stem cell patch, and after just 5 days, you can see that all he has left is a small bit of scabbing just in the mustache area under his nose. Take note at the size of his jaw, along the jawline, and the size of his lips, and you can see how remarkably the inflammation is down for this young man. Another benefit that is a side benefit, but a critical to note benefit, is wrinkle reduction. The collagen production when you wear the X39 stem cell is greatly increased, and collagen holds us together. Collagen holds all of our tissues, systems, and organs together and makes them tight and firm and patent and not saggy and not soft, and they are more able to increasingly perform their functions in a better fashion when they are tight and patent and functioning properly. Also, it's been noted that instantly sports performance goes up 18 to 20%. And I have not interviewed a marathoner, but I have seen 2 YouTube videos of marathoners that use these photobiomodulation patches, and they report that after running a marathon, they have no recovery time. No recovery time. That's something I haven't heard of, and I will be hopefully interviewing a marathoner that can tell me about their athletic performance with the patches and show me and indicate to me that they in fact had no recovery time. That is something I'm enormously curious about. Another incidental report is hair growth. Activating the stem cells in the scalp leads to hair growth. Lifewave has not tested this with the X39 stem cell patch yet. However, anecdotal reports and images are showing that there has been hair growth restoration once after chemotherapy and once with proper diet and nutrition and using the stem cell patch. And I will try to make those images and videos available in my next video presentation for you. As far as scar tissue removal, activating stem cells in the skin leads to the phenomenon called remodeling. And that's what we spoke about earlier, when these stem cells will break down dead or dying tissue or get after and remediate the scar tissue formation and restructure the skin back to its normal, healthy state, replete with circulation and removing the scar. When I attended the stem cell activation conference in Los Angeles just this year in 2019, there was an open heart surgery scar before and after, and within 30 days the entire scar that had been present for 18 months was completely remodeled and gone. You couldn't tell this individual had had surgery at all. So the youth renewal is something I'm really excited to tell you about, because the copper peptide itself is elevated, and it is known clinically to rewrite thousands of genes in the DNA to a youthful state. The result is a longer and healthier life. And at the conference, when Mr. David Schmidt spoke about the X39 stem cell patch, he said, "You do not have to age. You do not have to eventually become ill. And you do not have to die." And I think the reason he said that is because he is so well researched, and he has seen some things in his lab that confirm that we don't, in fact, have to age poorly and die. So he shared with us this image of this sweet 98-year-old woman from Denmark who felt terrible with her multiple health issues, and 60 days using the X39 stem cell patch, and these were her results. So as you can see, it looks as though her skin did firm up and tighten up and pull up, and she became uninflamed. The size of her face between the images, to me, has changed. The inflammation over her eyes and in her eyelids and under her eyes going down, it's remarkable to me to see this change. And so, wrapping up, we can see that with the X39 stem cell patch, we can experience rapid pain relief, a reduction in inflammation, supportive mechanisms towards wound healing, experiencing more energy and vitality because our genes are set back to youthful function. With that comes mental clarity. Some experience an improvement immediately in sports performance. We can have faster recovery from exercise, and we can see an improvement in skin appearance.
But all that changes when just one Lifewave X39 patch is placed anywhere on the body each day. Instead of older and less effective stem cells, X39 supports the production of younger and healthier stem cells. This amazing level of control over your vitality and well-being was simply not possible, let alone this easy, until now. And the best part? Like all Lifewave patches, X39 is safe, non-invasive, and incredibly cost-effective. Look what people are saying about Lifewave X39. Backed by clinical studies, multiple patents, and 20 years of development, any one of these benefits would be impressive. But X39 is so effective, it can influence everything about your body: how you look, feel, perform, and heal. It's time you experience the power of X39.